As royal aides prepare budgets for coming year, one name keeps appearing in most uncomfortable meetings. Not in official ledgers, but in private conversations. The hushed discussions about money that went missing. About payments that cannot be explained. Prince Andrew, and this time, questions are not about parties or photographs. They are about millions of pounds. Money that moved through accounts linked to Andrew. Money that allegedly funded a lifestyle far beyond what his royal allowance could support. According to financial investigators quoted in the Times, trail leads to offshore accounts, shell companies, and transactions that raise serious red flags. We are not talking about pocket change. We are talking about sums that would make most people's heads spin. And the sources? They include consultancy fees, appearance payments, and what one former aide called mysterious deposits from foreign benefactors. But here is what makes this particularly difficult to ignore. While Andrew was accepting these payments, while money was flowing through accounts bearing his name, he was still representing British monarchy at official events. Still using his royal title. Still protected by palace security funded by taxpayers. The timing could not be worse. Just weeks after latest Epstein files emerged, after photographs resurfaced showing Andrew in compromising situations, now comes this. A financial audit that reportedly spans 2 decades. An investigation that connects Andrew to business deals in countries known for questionable governance. Deals that allegedly promised access to royal family in exchange for substantial payments. One particular transaction stands out. In 2009, according to documents reviewed by investigative journalists, Andrew allegedly received £750,000 from a Luxembourg-based company. The stated purpose? Consultancy work. But former palace staff now say Andrew did no consulting work for this firm. He attended one meeting, shook some hands, and £750,000 appeared in an account. That was not isolated. Between 2005 and 2015, at least 8 similar payments allegedly reached accounts connected to Andrew. The total? Conservatively estimated at £7.2 million. And that is just what investigators have traced so far. Friends of Andrew insist this is perfectly legitimate. That he provided valuable services, that his connections were worth fees, that every penny was properly declared. But tax experts, who have reviewed available information, are not convinced. They point to irregular filing patterns. To accounts established in jurisdictions known for banking secrecy. To timing that suggests coordination with Andrew's most controversial travel periods. And then there is question everyone keeps asking. If these payments were legitimate, why offshore structures? Why shell companies? Why layers of financial engineering that make it nearly impossible to trace where money came from and where it went? Andrew has always maintained he followed all proper procedures. That his financial affairs were managed by professionals. That he has nothing to hide. But those professionals are now distancing themselves. 3 former advisors have reportedly told authorities they raised concerns about certain transactions. Concerns that were allegedly dismissed. What they found went far deeper than anyone expected. Stay with us, because money trail we are about to follow leads to places palace never wanted exposed. Let us talk about what Andrew's official income actually was during these years. As a working royal, his allowance from Queen was approximately £250,000 per year. His Navy pension added perhaps another £20,000. So roughly £270,000 annually in documented, legitimate income. Now let us talk about what Andrew actually spent. Royal Lodge, his 30-room mansion in Windsor Great Park, costs an estimated £400,000 per year just to maintain. Staff salaries, security not covered by state, utilities, upkeep. That is £400,000 before Andrew even steps outside. Then there are skiing holidays. Multiple trips to Verbia each year, staying in luxury chalets that rent for £25,000 per week. The helicopter flights, often chartered at £3,000 per hour. The wardrobes custom tailored by Savile Row, with suits costing £4,000 each. Associates say Andrew would order 6 or 7 at a time. The cars Andrew reportedly owned, at various points, an Aston Martin, a Range Rover, a Bentley, and a custom Jaguar. The insurance alone for that collection would run £30,000 annually for someone with his driving record. Maintenance, fuel, storage, add another £20,000. Then there were gifts. Andrew was known for extravagant gift giving. Watches costing £15,000. Jewelry for female friends. Cases of vintage wine. One former protection officer recalled Andrew casually spending £8,000 on golf equipment during a single shopping trip. Do the math. The lifestyle costs conservatively £800,000 to £1 million per year. The documented income £270,000. Where did rest come from? For years, the assumption was that Queen subsidized her favorite son. That she quietly covered his expenses from her private funds. But sources now say Her late Majesty was increasingly alarmed by Andrew's spending. That she had cut him off multiple times, only for him to find money elsewhere. That is the word that keeps coming up in these investigations. Court documents filed in United States, related to civil litigation against Andrew, reference income from consultancy work, and payments for business development services. But no one can identify what businesses Andrew actually developed. No one can point to deals that succeeded because of his involvement. What they can point to is a pattern. Andrew would travel to countries with authoritarian governments. Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Libya during Gaddafi's rule. Within weeks of these trips, money would appear in offshore accounts. One payment, detailed in leaked bank records, came from a Kazakh oligarch who met Andrew 3 times. The payment, £385,000, described as a consultancy fee. 6 months later, that same oligarch secured a meeting with senior British trade officials. A meeting arranged through channels connected to Palace. Was this corruption? Was this influence peddling? Andrew's lawyers have always denied any wrongdoing. They say he was promoting British interests abroad. That his efforts helped UK businesses. That the payments reflected the value of his work. But financial forensic experts, who have reviewed these transactions, tell a different story. They say payments have all hallmarks of what they call reputation laundering. Wealthy individuals from questionable backgrounds paying for access to legitimacy. Paying to be photographed with a member of British royal family. Paying for social capital that comes with being able to say, "I work with Prince Andrew." And Andrew provided that access freely. Photographs show him smiling beside figures later convicted of fraud, embezzlement, and in one case, connections to organized crime. At the time photos were taken, Andrew apparently saw nothing wrong. He was, in his view, representing Britain. Building relationships. Opening doors, but behind those doors, money was moving. Money that cannot be fully accounted for. Money that kept Andrew living like a billionaire on a civil servant's salary. The palace has tried to distance itself from these revelations. Statements now refer to Andrew's private financial arrangements. But these were not private. Not when Andrew was using his Her Royal Highness title. Not when he was traveling on diplomatic passports. Not when his security was taxpayer-funded, and now, with investigators circling, with journalists digging deeper, with former associates starting to talk, full picture is emerging. A picture of a man who treated his royal status as a business opportunity. Who sold access, sold influence, sold proximity to the crown. Who lived far beyond his means and filled gap with money from sources that would never pass ethical scrutiny. Friends say Andrew believes he did nothing wrong. That he was naive, perhaps. That he trusted the wrong people. That he never understood appearance of impropriety. But naivety becomes harder to claim when pattern repeats for 20 years. When amounts total millions. When sources include individuals later exposed as criminals. Stay tuned, because what comes next reveals just how deep this financial scandal goes, and who else might be implicated. The investigators are no longer just asking where money came from. They are asking where it went, because here is detail that has emerged in recent weeks. Much of money that reached Andrew's accounts did not stay there. It moved again. Quickly. Sometimes within days of arriving. Transferred to other accounts, other names, other jurisdictions. Financial analysts call this layering. It is a technique used to obscure origins of money. To make it difficult to trace. To break connection between original source and final destination. It is kind of financial structure you build when you do not want questions asked. One particular chain of transactions has drawn intense scrutiny. In 2011, £1.2 million allegedly arrived in an account linked to Andrew. Within 48 hours, £400,000 moved to a company registered in British Virgin Islands. Another £300,000 went to a Luxembourg entity. The remaining £500,000 was withdrawn in cash equivalents through a complex series of smaller transactions. What was that money for? No one can say. Andrew's former financial advisors claim they were instructed to move funds, but were never told purpose. The companies that received the money. Shell entities with no employees, no offices, no business operations. This is not financial structure of someone with nothing to hide. This is financial structure of someone trying very hard to hide something. And then there is question of Sarah Ferguson. Andrew's ex-wife, still living with him at Royal Lodge, still financially intertwined with him. Sarah has her own financial history. Bankruptcy. Scandals. Accusations that she accepted money from foreign businessmen, including one payment of £15,000 from Jeffrey Epstein himself, delivered to her by Andrew. Sarah claimed she was desperate, drowning in debt, and accepted help from a friend. But investigators are now asking whether Sarah was part of a larger financial network. Whether money flowed through her accounts as well. Whether she knowingly or unknowingly participated in schemes to obscure the origins of Andrew's income. Text messages obtained through disclosure in civil litigation show Sarah and Andrew discussing the big payment and our friends from the Gulf. In one exchange, Sarah allegedly writes, "Did it arrive?" Andrew responds, "All sorted." Usual place. What payment? What friends? What usual place? Neither Andrew nor Sarah has provided clear answers. Their legal teams have fought to keep financial records sealed. They have invoked privacy claims. They have argued that their financial affairs are not matters of public interest, but they are wrong. When a member of royal family, someone who has represented Britain on world stage, someone whose lifestyle has been subsidized by public funds, when that person is connected to millions in unexplained payments, it absolutely is a matter of public interest. And the public is angry. Polling shows support for Andrew has collapsed to single digits. 2/3 of Britons now believe he should face criminal investigation. More than 80% believe he should lose all remaining titles and privileges. King Charles is reportedly under immense pressure to act. To sever all remaining ties. To remove Andrew entirely from royal life. But that creates its own problems. Because if Andrew is truly expelled, if his income from family is cut off, how will he live? Where will money come from? And what will he do to get it? Some fear Andrew could turn to media deals. A paid interview. A book. A documentary. Selling his story to highest bidder. And in doing so, exposing secrets about royal family that they have fought for decades to keep hidden. Others worry Andrew might flee. That he could move permanently abroad, to a country with no extradition treaty, and continue living off money from sources that remain obscure. That he could become, in effect, a royal in exile. A constant embarrassment. A permanent stain, but most likely scenario, according to those close to situation, is that Andrew simply waits. He stays at Royal Lodge. He refuses to engage with investigators. He relies on protections that still exist. He hopes that time will dull the outrage. That new scandals will replace his. That world will eventually move on, and maybe it will. Maybe financial questions will fade. Maybe investigators will give up. Maybe journalists will find other stories, but evidence is not going away. The documents exist. The bank records exist. The testimony from former associates exists. And as long as those things remain, as long as people keep asking questions, Andrew will never be free of this. The party bags at Sandringham were embarrassing. The photographs with Epstein were damning. But the money trail, that could be what finally destroys him. Because money leaves evidence. Money can be traced. And money, unlike memories, does not lie.so. Here is where we are. A prince who lived like a king on money he should not have had. A financial trail that leads to some of most questionable figures in international business. A pattern of behavior that suggests, at minimum, catastrophic judgment, and at worst, something far more criminal. The investigators are still digging. The journalists are still reporting. And Andrew is still hoping this will all go away. It will not. If this story shocked you, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell for more explosive revelations. Because this is only the beginning of what we are about to uncover.